The last person Stephanie expected to see when she was rushed to the ER bleeding and terrified for her baby's life was him. Her ex-husband. The man who'd abandoned her 6 months ago when she told him she was pregnant, calling her a liar and a gold digger. Now here he was, Daniel Harrison, the paramedic who'd just brought her in, staring at her very pregnant belly with his mouth opened in shock. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when the ER doors burst open and Dr. Young-Kyu, the hospital's most respected trauma surgeon, took one look at her on that gurney and his face went white. "Stephanie," he breathed. Then his eyes dropped to her stomach and something fierce and protective took over his expression. Her ex-husband watched in confusion as this powerful Korean surgeon pushed past everyone, took her hand like she was the most precious thing in the world, and said words that made time stop. "Is it mine? Is our baby okay?" The room went silent. Daniel's face was drained of color. Because the baby he'd called a lie? The pregnancy he'd abandoned her over? It belonged to the man who could end his career with a single word. Some secrets don't stay hidden. Some men realize their mistakes too late. And some trauma surgeons are about to show an ex-husband exactly what happens when you abandon the woman they love. Before we dive into Stephanie's story, welcome to African Korean Romance, where we bring you the most addictive, heart-wrenching love stories you can't stop thinking about. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we drop new stories like this multiple times a week. Now, I'm curious. Drop a comment and tell me where in the world are you watching from, and is it day or night there? I love connecting with our global family from Accra to Seoul, London to Lagos. And if you're already hooked by this setup, smash that like button. Trust me, you'll want to be part of this community when we discuss the drama in the comments. Now let's get into how Stephanie's life became a beautiful disaster. Stephanie Henderson had never imagined her marriage would end the way it did. She and Daniel Harrison had been together for 5 years, married for 3. He was a paramedic, she was an ER nurse. They met at the hospital, bonded over late shifts and black coffee, built what she thought was a solid life. But somewhere along the way, Daniel changed. The long hours turned into late nights at bars. The tight budget became accusations that she spent too much. The partnership became controlled. When Stephanie found the pregnancy test in her hand 6 months ago, she'd been terrified. Not because she didn't want a baby, but because she knew Daniel would see it as a trap. She'd been right. The moment she showed him that positive test, his face had gone cold. "You're lying." That was the first thing he said. Not "congratulations." Not "I'm scared, but we'll figure it out." Just "you're lying." She'd stared at him confused. "Daniel, I took 3 tests. They're all positive. We're having a baby." He'd laughed, bitter and cruel. "Convenient timing, Steph. Right when I'm up for that promotion. Right when I told you I wanted to wait a few more years. You think I'm stupid? I think you're going to be a father." She'd tried to stay calm. "Whether you're ready or not, this baby is coming. We need to figure this out together." Daniel had grabbed his keys, headed for the door. "I'm not doing this. I'm not raising some kid you're using to lock me down. And if you think I'm paying for it, you're insane." He'd thrown divorce papers at her 2 days later. By the end of the week, he'd moved out. Stephanie had been devastated, alone and terrified. But she was also a survivor. She'd grown up with nothing, put herself through nursing school, built a career in one of the toughest hospital ERs in the city. She didn't need Daniel Harrison. She'd be damned if she let him break her. What Daniel didn't know, what Stephanie had never told him, was that the timing of that pregnancy test was more complicated than he thought. Because 3 days before she took it, before she even suspected she might be pregnant, she'd gone to a hospital charity gala. And she'd met someone. Dr. Young-Kyu. He was new to the hospital, a trauma surgeon who'd transferred from Seoul with a reputation that preceded him. Brilliant. Calm under pressure. Almost intimidatingly skilled. He was also beautiful in a way that made Stephanie forget how to breathe. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features and dark, intense eyes that seemed to see straight through her. She'd been standing alone at the gala, already feeling the cracks in her marriage, already knowing things with Daniel were ending. Young-Kyu had approached her with 2 glasses of wine and a slight smile. You look like you'd rather be anywhere but here. She'd laughed despite herself. That obvious? He'd handed her a glass. I'm the same. These events are exhausting. But the food is decent and the company, he'd looked at her meaningfully, might be worth staying for. They'd talked for hours. About medicine, about the pressure of ER work, about life. He was easy to talk to, surprisingly funny, and when he looked at her, she felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. When the gala ended, he walked her to her car. I'd like to see you again. Outside of work. If that's something you'd want. She should have said no. Should have mentioned she was married, even if barely. But something in his eyes made her honest. I'm married. But it's ending. He hasn't said it yet, but I know. We both know. Then when it ends, Young-Kyu had said quietly, and you're ready, find me. She had. 2 weeks after Daniel left, after the divorce papers were signed, after she'd spent enough nights crying alone, Stephanie had shown up at Young-Kyu's office. I'm ready. If the offer still stands. He'd stood immediately, crossed to her, cupped her face gently. It stands. It'll always stand. Their relationship had been a secret from the start. Hospital policy discouraged doctor-nurse relationships, especially between an ER nurse and a trauma surgeon who worked together constantly. And Stephanie wasn't ready for the gossip, the questions, the judgment. So they'd been careful. Dinners at his apartment. Quiet walks in parks outside the city. Stolen moments in empty on-call rooms. It was forbidden and complicated, and the most honest thing Stephanie had ever felt. She'd realized she was pregnant exactly 3 weeks into their relationship. The timing was perfect. She'd just finalized her divorce. Young-Kyu had just told her he was falling in love with her. And now she was carrying his baby. She'd been terrified to tell him. They were so new. This was so fast. What if he thought she was trapping him the way Daniel had accused? But Young-Kyu wasn't Daniel. When she'd finally worked up the courage, voice shaking, I need to tell you something, he'd gone very still. Okay, I'm pregnant. Silence. Then, quietly, is it mine? Yes. His eyes had searched hers. You're sure? Young-Kyu, you're the only person I've been with since my divorce. I'm sure. He'd pulled her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. I'm terrified. But I'm also happier than I've ever been. We're having a baby. They'd decided to keep it secret. Just for a while. Until Stephanie was past the first trimester, until they could figure out how to navigate hospital politics, until Young-Kyu could find the right moment to tell his traditional Korean family that he'd gotten his girlfriend pregnant. The plan was to go public at 5 months. Tell the hospital, deal with the consequences, move forward as a family. But Stephanie was only 6 months along now, and they still hadn't told anyone. The secret had grown heavier with every passing week. You're not ready for what happens next. Keep watching. It was a regular Thursday shift when everything fell apart. Stephanie was working triage, 6 months pregnant and exhausted, but hiding it well under her scrubs. Young-Kyu was in surgery. The ER was busy but manageable. Then the call came in. Motor vehicle accident, multiple casualties, ETA 3 minutes. Stephanie prepped, cleared trauma bays, made sure her team was ready. She didn't think anything of it. Didn't consider that the universe was about to put her face to face with the last person she wanted to see. The ambulance doors burst open and Daniel Harrison wheeled in the first patient. Their eyes met across the chaos and Stephanie watched recognition, confusion, and shock flash across his face in rapid succession. But there was no time. The patient was critical. She was a professional. They worked. It wasn't until an hour later, after the patient was stabilized, after the adrenaline faded, that Daniel cornered her in the hallway. Steph. She kept walking. We have nothing to talk about. You're pregnant. She stopped. Turned. Yes. His face was doing complicated things. How far along? That's none of your business. 6 months. He said it like an accusation. You're 6 months pregnant. Stephanie crossed her arms over her belly protectively. And 6 months ago you told me you were pregnant. Showed me that test. I called you a liar and left. Now you're actually pregnant? She wanted to lie. Wanted to tell him it was someone else's, that the timeline didn't match. But she was tired of lying. The baby you didn't believe in wasn't yours, Daniel. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after our divorce was finalized. This baby has nothing to do with you. His face went through several emotions. Confusion. Calculation. Anger. So you moved on that fast. Got pregnant by someone else within weeks of our divorce. That's real classy stuff. She stepped closer, voice low and furious. You don't get to judge me. You threw me away. Called me a liar and a gold digger. Didn't even care enough to wonder if that test was real. So yes, I moved on. I found someone who actually values me. And now I'm having his baby. Who is he? None of your business. Is he a doctor here? A nurse? Some random guy? I said it's none of your business. Daniel grabbed her arm. Tell me who he is. Let go of her. The voice was cold, controlled, and came from directly behind Daniel. Both of them turned. Young-Kyu stood 5 feet away in blood-stained surgical scrubs, and the look on his face made Daniel drop Stephanie's arm immediately. Dr. Song, Daniel said, confused why a trauma surgeon was involving himself. I'd suggest you take your hands off her and step back. Young-Kyu's voice was perfectly calm, but there was steel underneath. Now. Daniel stepped back, looking between them. This isn't your business. Actually, Young-Kyu moved to Stephanie's side, placed himself slightly in front of her. It's entirely my business. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Why would a trauma surgeon care about a nurse's personal life? Young-Kyu's expression didn't change. Because that nurse is my girlfriend. And you just put your hands on her. The hallway went silent. 2 other nurses had stopped to watch. A resident was staring. This was the exact public reveal they'd been trying to avoid. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. Your girlfriend. Yes. And that baby, Daniel's voice was rising, is that yours too? Young-Kyu's jaw tightened. Yes. So let me get this straight. Daniel's face was turning red. My ex-wife, who I left 6 months ago, is now pregnant by you. A trauma surgeon. How convenient. Convenient, Young-Kyu repeated, his voice dropping dangerously low. You think it's convenient that Stephanie had to hide her pregnancy for 6 months because of hospital politics? Convenient that she's been working full shifts while carrying my child because she's too proud to ask for special treatment? Convenient that the father of her baby is standing here watching some paramedic who threw her away act like he has any right to touch her? I have a right to answers. You have a right to nothing. Young-Kyu stepped closer, and despite being about the same height, he somehow seemed to tower over Daniel. You left her. You called her a liar. You didn't want the responsibility. So she moved on. Found someone who actually deserves her. That's not your story to be part of anymore. Daniel looked at Stephanie. Is this really what you want? Some doctor who's probably just using you? He's not using me. Stephanie found her voice. He loves me. And I love him. We're having a baby and we're happy. You don't get to ruin that just because you regret your choices. I don't regret anything. Daniel shot back. Then leave. Young-Kyu's voice was final. And if I ever see you put your hands on her again, hospital policy won't protect you. Neither will your job. Do we understand each other? Daniel stared at him for a long moment. Then at Stephanie. Then he turned and walked away. The moment he was gone, Young-Kyu turned to Stephanie, his expression transforming from cold authority to warm concern. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? I'm fine. She was shaking. He just grabbed my arm. That's not fine. His hands were gentle as he checked her arm, then moved to her belly. The baby? Active as ever. Kicking my ribs. He smiled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Good. I don't like him touching you. I noticed. She tried for lightness. Very possessive, Dr. Song. When it comes to you and our baby. Absolutely. He looked around the hallway, at the nurses still staring. Well, I guess the secret's out. I guess so. Are you okay with that? He cupped her face. I'd rather the whole world know than have one more person think they can touch you without consequences. You're mine, Stephanie. You and this baby. And I don't share. The possessiveness in his voice should have bothered her. Instead, it made her feel safe. Protected. Chosen. Good. She leaned into his touch. Because I'm not interested in being anyone else's. Okay, pause for a second because we need to talk. Can you believe what just happened? If you're feeling this tension like I am, go ahead and hit that like button. And here's my question for you. Who's in the wrong here? Daniel for abandoning her or Stephanie for not telling him the truth? Drop a comment right now because I'm genuinely curious what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to African Korean Romance if you haven't already, because trust me, what happens next is absolutely insane. Okay, back to the story. The fallout from the hallway confrontation was immediate. By the end of the shift, everyone knew. The ER nurse and the trauma surgeon. Secret relationship. She's 6 months pregnant. It's his. The hospital administrator called them both into her office the next morning. Dr. Song, Nurse Henderson. Please sit. They sat. Administrator Williams was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, no nonsense. I'm going to be direct. Your relationship violates hospital policy regarding workplace fraternization between doctors and nurses in the same department. That policy exists to prevent conflicts of interest and maintain professional boundaries. I understand, Young-Kyu said calmly. However, we were planning to disclose the relationship. Yesterday's incident simply accelerated that timeline. The incident where you publicly confronted a paramedic? Yes. He'd put his hands on Stephanie in a threatening manner. I intervened. As anyone would have. Mr. Harrison has filed a complaint. He claims you threatened him and his job. I stated facts. Young-Kyu's expression didn't change. If he puts his hands on my girlfriend again, there will be consequences. That's not a threat. It's a boundary. Administrator Williams looked at Stephanie. Nurse Henderson, are you in a consensual relationship with Dr. Song? Yes, ma'am. And the pregnancy? Also consensual and planned. Stephanie kept her voice steady. We're in a committed relationship. We're having a baby together. We understand this complicates things professionally, but we're prepared to handle it appropriately. Williams sighed. Here's the situation. I can't fire you for being in a relationship. That would be discrimination. However, I can and will require that you no longer work the same shifts. One of you needs to transfer to a different department or different shift schedule. I'll transfer, Young-Kyu said immediately. To nights. Whatever keeps Stephanie on her preferred schedule. You take nights? Williams looked surprised. Without hesitation. Williams studied them both for a long moment. You're serious about this? About each other? Yes. They said it in unison. Williams' expression softened slightly. Then here's what's going to happen. Dr. Song, you'll transfer to night shift trauma starting next week. Nurse Henderson, you'll remain on day shift. You're prohibited from working together directly. If there's an emergency and you're both present, another supervisor must be in the room. These rules stay in place until after the baby is born and Nurse Henderson returns from maternity leave. At that point, we'll reassess. Understood? Understood. Thank you, Administrator Williams. She nodded. And for what it's worth, congratulations. On the baby. They left the office hand in hand. I'm sorry, Stephanie said quietly in the elevator. You love day shift. I love you more. He pulled her close. And nights means I can be home with you in the mornings. Take you to doctor appointments. Actually be present for this pregnancy instead of stealing moments between traumas. You're really okay with this? Are you? He tilted her chin up. Because I need you to know something, Stephanie. I would burn my entire career down before I let anyone make you feel like you have to choose between me and your work. We're a team. Whatever comes, we handle it together. She kissed him there in the elevator, deep and grateful. I love you. I love you too. Both of you. He placed his hand on her belly and the baby kicked against his palm, making them both smile. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Young-Kyu worked nights, came home to Stephanie in the mornings. They'd have breakfast together, he'd go to her doctor appointments, they'd nap tangled together in the afternoon before he left for his evening shift. It was backwards and exhausting, but it was theirs. Daniel kept his distance. Stephanie would see him occasionally when he brought patients in, but he never approached her again. Whatever Young-Kyu had said in that hallway had clearly made an impact. She was 6.5 months pregnant when the complications started. It began as cramping. Nothing major, just uncomfortable. Stephanie mentioned it to her OB, who told her to rest, stay hydrated, monitor it. But by the next day, the cramping was worse. And then came the bleeding. Stephanie was at home alone. Young-Kyu was at the hospital on his night shift. She called him immediately, trying not to panic. Something's wrong. I'm bleeding. How much? His voice went sharp, professional. Enough to scare me. I'm coming home. No. She was already grabbing her keys. It'll be faster if I drive to the hospital. I'm 10 minutes away. Stephanie, you're bleeding. You shouldn't drive. I'm driving. She was in the car already. I'll be there in 8 minutes. Have a gurney ready. Meet me at the ambulance bay. He wanted to argue. She could hear it. But he knew her well enough to know she'd already made up her mind. 7 minutes. Not 8. And I'm coming with the gurney myself. She drove, hands shaking on the wheel, trying to stay calm. The baby was moving, that was good. But the cramping was intensifying and the bleeding wasn't stopping. 6.5 months was viable. The baby could survive if they had to deliver early. But Stephanie wanted more time. Wanted to carry this baby to term. Wanted everything to be okay. She made it to the hospital in 6 minutes. Young-Kyu was waiting at the ambulance bay exactly as promised with a gurney and 2 nurses. The moment she pulled up, he was at her door. I've got you. He lifted her from the car to the gurney like she weighed nothing. We're going straight to labor and delivery. I've already called your OB. The baby? Still moving. Good. That's good. Hold on to that. They were moving through the hospital fast. Stephanie closed her eyes, focused on breathing, on staying calm. And then she heard a familiar voice. Stephanie? She opened her eyes. Daniel was there, end of his shift apparently, staring at her on the gurney with Young-Kyu running beside her. What happened? Is she okay? Young-Kyu didn't even look at him. Not your concern. But she's bleeding. Daniel started following them. Shouldn't someone check? Her OB is waiting upstairs. Young-Kyu's voice was clipped. We have it handled. I can help. You can leave. Young-Kyu finally stopped, turned to face Daniel, and his expression was arctic. This is not your emergency. Not your girlfriend. Not your baby. You have no role here. Now back off before I have security remove you. Daniel stopped walking. But Stephanie saw something in his face. Regret maybe. Or realization of what he'd lost. She didn't have time to think about it because another wave of cramping hit and she gasped. Young-Kyu was moving again immediately. I'm here. I've got you. We're almost there. They made it to labor and delivery. Dr. Martinez, Stephanie's OB, was waiting. Let's see what's going on. Young-Kyu held Stephanie's hand through the exam, the ultrasound, the monitoring. His face was professionally calm, but she could see the fear in his eyes. The fear he was controlling for her sake. The baby looks good, Dr. Martinez finally said. Heart rate is strong. Movement is normal. The bleeding is from a small placental separation. Not full abruption, just a small tear. We need to stop it from getting worse. What does that mean? Stephanie's voice was small. It means bed rest. Complete bed rest for at least 2 weeks. We'll monitor closely. If it gets worse, we may need to deliver early. But right now, the baby is stable. You're stable. We just need to give your body time to heal. Stephanie felt tears slide down her face, relief overwhelming. The baby's okay. The baby's okay. Young-Kyu pressed his forehead to hers. You're both okay. That's all that matters. Can I stay with her? He looked at Dr. Martinez. Of course. Dr. Martinez smiled. I'll have the nurses set up a cot. Plan on being here a while? I'm not leaving her side. Then you'll need this. Dr. Martinez handed him a meal voucher. Cafeteria food isn't great, but it's something. Young-Kyu took it absently, his attention entirely on Stephanie. Thank you. Dr. Martinez left. The nurses came and went. Eventually, they were alone in the dim hospital room, Stephanie in the bed, Young-Kyu sitting beside her with her hand in his. You scared me. His voice was quiet. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't do it again. She managed a weak smile. I'll try to keep my placenta intact. Not funny. A little funny. He smiled despite himself. Then his expression turned serious. Stephanie, I need you to know something. What? If it had come down to a choice, you or the baby, I would have chosen you. Every time. Young-Kyu. I mean it. He squeezed her hand. I love this baby already. I want this baby more than I've wanted anything. But you're my priority. You're my person. I need you to be okay before anything else matters. That's not a choice I'll ever make you face. It might be. These things happen. Then I'll make it for you. She met his eyes. Because I can't do this without you. I won't survive losing you. You won't lose me. Promise me. Promise me you'll choose us. Both of us. I promise. He kissed her hand. I'll choose both of you. Always. What happens in the next 60 seconds will shock you. Stay with me. 2 days later, Stephanie was still in the hospital on bed rest and going quietly insane with boredom. Young-Kyu had barely left except to shower and change clothes. He'd called in favors to rearrange his schedule and had other surgeons cover his shifts. Right now he was downstairs getting them both food. Stephanie was alone when Daniel appeared in her doorway. She looked up surprised. What are you doing here? I heard you were admitted. Wanted to check on you. That's not appropriate. I know. He stepped inside anyway. But I needed to say something. Daniel, I'm on bed rest. I can't deal with drama right now. It's not drama. He moved closer. It's an apology. She went still. For what I said. For how I treated you. For not believing you about the pregnancy. For calling you a liar. For everything. He looked genuinely remorseful. I was scared and selfish, and I handled it in the worst possible way. You deserved better. Yes, I did. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. See what I threw away. You're happy with him. With Dr. Song. I am. And he's good to you. Better than I ever was. Yes. Daniel nodded slowly. Good. That's good. He glanced at her belly. The baby okay? Stephanie hesitated, then nodded. Scared but stable. I'm glad. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Steph, I think you're going to be an amazing mother. And your baby is lucky to have parents who actually want them. Thank you. It was all she could think to say. He left. Stephanie sat there processing, feeling strange. Not forgiveness exactly. But maybe closure. Young-Kyu returned 10 minutes later with food and immediately frowned. What's wrong? How do you know something's wrong? Because I know you. What happened? Daniel came by. Young-Kyu's entire body tensed. Did he upset you? Should I call security? No. She reached for his hand. He apologized. Actually apologized. Said I deserved better and that he handled everything wrong. Young-Kyu studied her face. How do you feel about that? Surprised. But okay, I think. It doesn't change anything, but it was something. He sat beside her. If you want me to ban him from this floor, I will. She smiled. My protective surgeon. Always. But no, I don't need him banned. He's not a threat anymore. You're sure? I'm sure. She pulled him closer. You're my future. He's just my past finally making peace with himself. Young-Kyu kissed her softly. Then I hope he finds his peace somewhere far away from you. They ate together, the incident with Daniel fading into background noise. What mattered was this. The two of them. Soon to be 3. The baby kicked and Young-Kyu's hand immediately went to her belly, his face softening with wonder. Strong kick. Takes after you. Please. That's all your genetics. Our genetics. He corrected, smiling. This baby is going to be brilliant and stubborn and absolutely perfect. Just like us. We're almost at the moment everything comes together. But before we get there, if your heart is racing right now, hit that like button so I know you're feeling this with me. And seriously, if you've made it this far without subscribing to African Korean romance, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because the ending is going to leave you speechless. Now let's see what happens next. 2 weeks of bed rest felt like a year, but Stephanie made it through. The bleeding stopped. The placenta stabilized. Dr. Martinez cleared her to go home with strict instructions to take it easy and come back immediately if anything changed. Young-Kyu took a week of vacation time to stay home with her. They spent the days preparing the nursery, talking about names, and planning for their future. It felt surreal and perfect. Stephanie was 7.5 months pregnant when Young-Kyu finally brought up the thing they'd been dancing around. We should get married. She looked up from the baby clothes she was folding. What? Marry me. He said it simply, like it was obvious. Before the baby comes. I want us to be a family officially. Young-Kyu, we don't have to rush. I want to. He took her hands. I know this isn't the romantic proposal you probably imagined. I don't have a ring yet. I haven't planned some elaborate moment. But Stephanie, I love you. I want to marry you. I want our baby to have parents who are committed to each other in every way possible. I don't need to elaborate. She was smiling, tears in her eyes. And I don't need a ring. I just need you. So that's a yes? That's a yes. I'll marry you, Young-Kyu song. He kissed her, deep and loving and full of promise. Then let's do it this weekend. This weekend? Why wait? Good point. She laughed. Okay, this weekend. Let's get married. They kept it simple. City Hall on a Saturday morning. Young-Kyu wore a suit. Stephanie wore a simple cream dress that accommodated her belly. They invited no one, made it just theirs. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Young-Kyu kissed her like she was oxygen. And just like that, Stephanie Henderson became Stephanie Song. They celebrated with lunch at her favorite restaurant, then went home and spent the rest of the day in bed, talking about everything and nothing. This is perfect, Stephanie said, curled against his chest. Yumi, our baby. This is everything I never knew I wanted. I knew. Young-Kyu ran his hand over her belly. From the moment I met you at that gala, I knew you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how much. Think we would have found each other if I'd still been with Daniel? I'd like to think so. He kissed her hair. I think some people are meant to find each other no matter what. The universe just pushes you together until you can't ignore it anymore. That's very romantic for a trauma surgeon. I'm a romantic for you. Only you. The baby kicked hard between them and they both laughed. I think someone's reminding us they're here too. Young-Kyu shifted to press his hand where the kick had been. We haven't forgotten you, little one. We're so ready to meet you. Another month, Stephanie said. One more month and we get to hold our baby. I can't wait. Me neither. But also, these have been the best months of my life. Even with the complications and the drama and the hospital politics. Because I got to fall in love with you while we created a life together. That's pretty incredible. You're incredible. She tilted her face up to kiss him. And I love you. More than I thought I could love anyone. I love you too. Both of you. Always. They stayed like that, tangled together, talking and dreaming until the sun went down. And Stephanie realized something profound. She'd spent 3 years with Daniel feeling alone even when he was right beside her. But with Young-Kyu, even in the chaos and complications, she'd never felt alone once. That was the difference. That was everything. 1 month later, Stephanie went into labor at 3 in the morning. Young-Kyu drove her to the hospital, calm and steady even though she could see his hands shaking slightly on the wheel. They checked into labor and delivery. Dr. Martinez was on call. Everything was ready. 12 hours later, after the hardest work Stephanie had ever done, their daughter was born. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Screaming and healthy and absolutely perfect. Young-Kyu cut the umbilical cord with tears streaming down his face. When the nurses placed their daughter in Stephanie's arms, he pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "We made a person. A whole perfect person. We did." Stephanie was crying too. We really did. They named her Mia. Mia Song. And when Young-Kyu held her for the first time, looking down at his daughter with such pure love and wonder, Stephanie knew without a doubt that everything she'd been through had been worth it. The bad marriage that taught her what she didn't want. The painful divorce that set her free. The secret relationship that became her greatest love. The complicated pregnancy that brought them together. All of it had led to this moment. To this family. 3 days later, they brought Mia home. Young-Kyu had transformed the nursery into something magical. Soft colors, a rocking chair by the window, everything ready. He was nervous, constantly checking on Mia, making sure she was breathing, that she was warm enough, that she was okay. You're going to be an amazing father, Stephanie said, watching him fuss over their sleeping daughter. I'm terrified. Good. That means you care. She came to stand beside him. We're going to figure this out together. Just like everything else. He pulled her close, careful not to wake the baby. I never thought I'd have this. A family. A wife. A daughter. I'd convinced myself I was too busy, too focused on my career, that it wasn't for me. Then you walked into my life and changed everything. You changed my life too. She leaned into him. Saved it, really. I was so lost. So sure I wasn't meant for love or family or any of this. But you saw me. Really saw me. And you chose me anyway. I'll choose you every day for the rest of my life. He kissed the top of her head. You and Mia. My girls. My everything. Mia stirred, made a small sound, and they both froze, waiting. But she settled back to sleep, tiny fist curled near her face. Perfect, Young-Kyu whispered. She's absolutely perfect. Just like her mother. Stop. Stephanie was smiling. You're going to make me cry. I'm serious. He turned her to face him. You're the strongest person I know. You survived a bad marriage, rebuilt your life, dealt with all the complications of us, brought our daughter into the world. You're amazing, Stephanie. Don't ever doubt that. I won't. Not anymore. Because you remind me every day. And that was the truth. With Young-Kyu, Stephanie had finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not someone to complete her, but someone to walk beside her. Not someone to save her, but someone to build with her. Not someone who saw her as a prize or a burden, but someone who saw her as a partner. An equal. A person worth choosing every single day. They stood there in the nursery, holding each other and watching their daughter sleep, and Stephanie felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Complete and total peace. Some love stories start with betrayal. Some start with secrets. But the best ones start with two people brave enough to choose each other despite the complications. Stephanie had been abandoned by a man who didn't see her worth. But she'd been chosen by a man who saw all of her and loved every part. And now they had Mia. Proof that from endings come new beginnings. That from pain comes joy. That sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never planned for. 6 months later, Stephanie returned to work part-time. Young-Kyu had switched back to day shift, so one of them was always home with Mia. They'd hired a nanny for the hours when both had to work, but mostly they managed to stagger their schedules. It was exhausting and chaotic and perfect. On Stephanie's first day back, she walked into the ER with her head high. People stared. They always would. The nurse who'd gotten pregnant by the trauma surgeon. The scandal that had rocked the hospital. But Stephanie didn't care anymore. Let them talk. She had Young-Kyu. She had Mia. She had a family built on love and choice and fierce protection. Nothing else mattered. She was restocking a supply room when she heard a familiar voice. Stephanie. She turned. Daniel stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. This was the first time they'd spoken since that day in the hospital room months ago. Hi, Daniel. Hi. He shifted awkwardly. I heard you had the baby. Congratulations. Thank you. She smiled. A girl. Mia. That's a beautiful name. There was a pause. Then Daniel said, I also heard you got married. I did. She showed him her ring, simple and elegant. We got married before Mia was born. He nodded slowly. You look happy. I am. Really, truly happy. Good. He seemed to mean it. You deserve that. I'm sorry I couldn't give it to you. We weren't right for each other, Daniel. And that's okay. Sometimes people aren't meant to last. Sometimes they're just meant to teach you what you need so you're ready when the right person comes along. He smiled sadly. Wise words. Hard-learned ones. She studied him. Are you okay? Getting there. He shrugged. Therapy helps. Turns out I had a lot to work through. Fear of commitment, control issues, the whole package. I'm trying to be better. That's good. I mean it. I hope you find what you're looking for. Thanks. He glanced behind him. I should go. My shift's starting. Before he left, he turned back one more time. Stephanie? Yeah? He's good to you, right? Dr. Song? The best. Then that's all that matters. Take care of yourself. You too, Daniel. He left. And Stephanie felt the last piece of her past click into place. No anger. No regret. Just acceptance that some chapters end so better ones can begin. That night, she came home to find Young-Kyu on the floor doing tummy time with Mia. Their daughter was babbling, grabbing at his fingers, completely fascinated by her father. "Look who's home." Young-Kyu's face lit up when he saw her. "Mia, look, it's Mama." Mia turned her head, broke into a gummy smile, and Stephanie's heart melted all over again. "How was your first day back?" "Exhausting." "Good." "Strange." She sat down beside them. "But good." "I saw Daniel." Young-Kyu's expression tightened slightly. And it was fine. Civil, he apologized again. Said he's in therapy. Wished us well. Young-Kyu relaxed. "Good. I'm glad he's getting help." "Me too." She watched him tickle Mia's belly, making their daughter laugh. "You know what I realized today?" "What?" "I spent 3 years trying to make Daniel happy. Trying to be enough. And I was never enough for him. But with you, I've never had to try. I'm just myself, and that's enough. It's more than enough." He reached for her hand. "You're everything, Stephanie. To me and to her. Don't ever forget that." "I won't. Because you remind me every single day." They sat there on the floor, the three of them, and Stephanie took a mental picture. This moment. This family. This life she'd built from the ashes of her old one. This was what happy looked like. Not perfect. Not without challenges. But real and honest and full of love. Young-Kyu leaned over and kissed her, soft and sweet. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me this. For trusting me. For building this life with me. I didn't think I was capable of this kind of happiness until you showed me I was. You did the same for me." She kissed him back. "We saved each other. We did. And we're going to keep saving each other. Every day for the rest of our lives." Mia babbled loudly, as if reminding them she was still there. Both of them laughed. All right, Young-Kyu picked up their daughter. "We're paying attention to you now. You're the most important person in this room." "Second most important," Stephanie corrected with a smile. "You're the most important person to me." "Nice try." He grinned. "But Mia wins. She's cuter." "Fair point." Stephanie conceded. "I can't compete with that face." They spent the evening together, the three of them, doing normal family things. Feeding Mia. Giving her a bath. Reading her stories even though she was too young to understand. Putting her to sleep in her crib. And later, when Mia was down and the apartment was quiet, Young-Kyu pulled Stephanie onto the couch and into his arms. "I love our life." His voice was quiet, content. "Even the chaos. Even the exhaustion. I love every single part of it because it's ours." "Me too." She snuggled closer. "I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the hard parts? Not even those. Because they brought us here." He was quiet for a moment. "Then, do you ever think about what would have happened if Daniel had believed you that first time? If he'd stayed?" "Sometimes. But then I remember that baby wasn't his. It was never his. We were already over. I just hadn't admitted it yet. You were already moving toward me. We were moving toward each other." He corrected. "From the moment we met at that gala, this was inevitable." "You think so?" "I know so. Some people are meant to find each other. We're those people." She tilted her head up to look at him. "Promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll always be honest with each other. Even when it's hard. Even when it's scary. No secrets. No hiding." "I promise." He kissed her forehead. "Complete honesty. Always. That's all I need. That and you and Mia. That's my whole world right there." "Mine too." His arms tightened around her. "My whole world." They fell asleep on the couch like that, tangled together, and when Mia woke them up crying at 2 a.m., they stumbled to her room together, taking turns soothing her back to sleep. This was parenthood. This was marriage. This was life. Messy and exhausting and more beautiful than Stephanie had ever imagined possible. Because she'd finally found her person. The one who saw her completely and loved her anyway. The one who protected her fiercely and stood beside her always. The one who'd given her a daughter and a future and a love that felt like coming home. Young-Kyu's song wasn't perfect. Neither was she. But together, they were exactly what each other needed. And that was more than enough. It was everything. So that just happened. If you're sitting there in shock or maybe even crying a little, same. Hit that like button if this story destroyed you in the best way. Comment below what your favorite moment was. Was it when Young-Kyu said that's my wife? When he protected Stephanie in front of Daniel? When they got married at City Hall? Let me know because I love hearing from you. Thank you so much to everyone who shared where they're watching from and whether it's day or night. This community is global and I'm obsessed with all of you. From Accra to Toronto, Seoul to Sydney, thank you for being here. Subscribe to African Korean Romance and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story dropping soon. Until then, stay romantic, stay dramatic, and remember, the best love stories are the ones that aren't supposed to happen. The ones that start with endings and turn into the most beautiful beginnings. I'll see you in the next one.